Hi, folks. You are watching and listening to a very special edition of Open Bar with me, Mike Morales, in Southern California. And that young lady is.
Jill Lawton from Tequila. How are you
Yeah,
guys today?
we got to make sure we. This is the representative, the young lady who's been on everybody's Instagram and she keeps showing up on IG Live and uh, you're everywhere. You're like this virus. You're
Oh,
everywhere.
thank you. I'm the good virus. I'm that virus that you want
Oh,
to.
yeah, you're the nice virus.
Yeah, the nice virus.
The
I'm the
nice,
virus that kills all the other viruses.
that's it. You're the you're
Yes.
the you're the cleanup.
Yes.
Now, Jill, for those of you who have not seen our review of all three iterations that we have, all three expressions of Costa are playing on our YouTube channel under heavy rotation. We one of the first tequilas we had for 2021. When you folks are seeing this, it's 2022, and we're not sure where Kostov is as far as brands of promise winners. Okay, but those will be announced in January. So I'm sure it's going to score very highly. It's such a tight race, but it was such a great tequila. I know Jim and I loved it, and to your credit, because of her efforts, among other things, that Blanca review has over 5,000 views, folks. Go
Yes,
to
it
YouTube.
does.
Watch
Yes.
it. Rick, was it? Oh, it was Rick and I that did that, I think, and we just had a good time. So I know I've heard this story before, but how did you come into the tequila realm? I mean, just give us a little bit of the background of where you came from, because you're not from Southern California, right?
No, born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut, and I thought I was going to go to school for nursing. And when I was, then I realized I didn't like the sight of blood. That was a big red flag. So, when I was in college, I was, just obviously just like any other college student, I was working part-time and I was working for a promotions agency. So I was, I was the one in store doing the in-store demos. Cinco de Mayo, I was there, was when I worked for so many different brands. And of course, just when I graduated college, it's like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I mean, I did a double major. I had a health science background, but I also was in marketing as well. So I think I had the most amazing opportunity. I was applying all over the place at that time. I like pharmaceutical sales was like the big thing to go into.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everybody was trying to get into that.
Yeah.
And I actually had the most amazing opportunity to go work for Allied Domecq. Which was sold by Pernod Ricard in 2005. But Salsa Tequila was one of the first tequilas I started working with back in, and I'm dating myself now, back in 2003. So I was super young, I was a teenager.
Yeah, because you're just a baby.
You know how that goes,
Right.
Yeah. So I got to work with, working as the on-premise state manager for Allied Domecq, and Salsa was the first brand that I worked with. And at the time, there was still people still just knew. I mean, Jose Cuervo was, it was still getting known. It wasn't all the craft tequilas that we have today. And then I worked with them for a couple of years, and then after they got sold to Pernod Ricard, that's when I kind of went and started my own agency. And now I managed a team of girls and did on and off premise promotions for the entire state of Connecticut. Working for multiple distributors, multiple suppliers. And then fast forward a couple of years when we decided to move out of Connecticut, my husband got a great job offer and we decided to move to the Midwest, which was definitely interesting at the time. We absolutely loved it.
Was that Ohio? Was that Ohio?
That was Cincinnati, Ohio. And not to knock it because I'm here in beautiful sunny California now, but when I kind of moved on a whim and I said, well, where am I going to go to work for? So that's when I moved back to the distributor side, and I started working for Southern Glazers. So that's, of course, when I was working for Patron. And that's when I really just started to getting into, not only when I'm working for Patron, but I really saw when I was living in Ohio, I saw how so many people had so much passion for bourbons and whiskeys. And of course, we're so close to Kentucky. Yeah, so I really started at that time, got into bourbons and whiskeys, and then moving out here, my husband also always wanted to work in the cannabis industry, and what better place than California to do that? I mean, so 2 years ago, I
could have thought of Colorado,
Yeah, so 2 years ago, he and I we moved out to California, and it just so happened it was actually when I started during COVID, believe it or not, I mean, I count my blessings, but it was during COVID that, I was looking for a job opportunity, and this opportunity with Costive came about. So, and then here I am ever since, after, despite COVID, as you see, we've had a lot of success, and I'm really thankful to see, especially now in California, how the craft tequila market has grown. And I mean, I see my future, and I've met so many great people, and we look forward to, obviously learning knowledge from you every day, and just how we can continue in the tequila business. Because I think there's so many opportunities. And now, coming from working with big brands and now working with a craft brand, you see the difference, how it has changed. People are moving away from, the more mass-produced tequilas and really working with craft tequilas. So I couldn't be happier.
Now, how did that opportunity with Costa appear for you? Because was it just an ad that they put out, or?
Believe it or not, I was just doing some research, and I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. I think I was blessed, just as I found that opportunity, to go work for Allied Domecq. I think I was just very, something was meant to be. Someone out there was looking out for me, and that's how I got the opportunity. As you know, Costa Tequila is distributed with 88 Spirits, and I've been very fortunate now to work very closely with Harry and really, see some of the other brands that he's working on. And, I've helped him build some of the other brands in his portfolio. Now, Harry and I are very close, and not only do I see the future with Costa Tequila, I really see what the future is going to bring with 88 Spirits together as a partnership.
Yeah, he's a real special guy. We actually have an article of his. He was one of our first male profiles in Agave Spirits that we had just on video and in text, where he tells his story. It was a ceremony that I was invited to, that I was at, and I filmed a lot of his speech because he gives a lot of his great story, and he's really a self-made guy. And and in fact, I need to get back to hook up with him and maybe have a lunch or dinner, because I know he's really changed the scope of his business. I noticed that he's doing a lot of things with female-led brands, and I think that's a smart move. He really has a sweet story. If you folks have not looked at it, it's on our website, tequilaaficionado.com, and it's called A Hero's Journey, because it really is a big journey for him, and to see how it's come. Now he's partnering with really strong women like yourself. I don't know how you do it. For those of you who follow Jill, what's your Instagram on what's the handle on Instagram?
So it's Tequila Costive _Jill.
Okay, so for those of you who have not yet followed her, go follow her now, because she doesn't hide a whole lot of anything.
Oh boy, yeah.
She's not only repping the brand. I mean, you're literally the face of the brand, because we don't know who Mr. Costive is. He's this mysterious guy in the background. Have you ever met?
And we have to get him on soon. I just waved to him in the office, but we're gonna have to get him on live soon.
So fun. Please, when it's possible, I'd love to interview him as well.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. I know he is as well. So, and he's another great person that we look forward to telling his story as well. Great opportunity. So.
You mentioned it briefly to me. I think when you reached out originally, you gave it was a brief story about him and I think I try to translate or transfer that story when we did the review. But there's nothing better than hearing it from the person who lived it.
Right. Yes. So
and that's what this is
set that
about.
up very soon. Yes.
Yeah, this is what this is about. And so, for those of you who follow Jill, that she's competing in the fitness realm as well. You're like everywhere, and so I first thing I said to her off camera is, I hope I'm not interrupting your workout, because
no, not at all. And that's one of the other reasons why I really like to be working in the agave spirits industry. I mean, for those who don't know, if you're going to be, and this is personally, even if I wasn't working in the tequila business, if I'm going to be, having any spirits, I'm going to be drinking tequila, because, And how much do we want to say? But I mean, it is really one of the cleanest spirits that you can drink. And and I remember when I took my CRT course, they talked about how the health benefits, dating back to the Mayans, what they were using tequila for, and where they really believe it has a lot of medicinal purposes. And I think you and I even talked about maybe even before I went on stage that maybe I had to take a shot of tequila. Because of course it would calm my nerves, but it would also maybe make me a little bit more vascular. So
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
it was really interesting. Well, I'll this is for you. This is about you, so I'm not even going to relate that story. But but yeah, some people use that trick, that tip, before they go out on stage. The problem is they use a mixto, and a mixto, because it's 51.49 percent. The 49% is sugar. And so it would tend to not only give you vascularity, but then it will spike you, and then you'll drop. Whereas 100% agave has a more even, it's more like time released. So there's not that sudden crash when you get off stage, because I don't even know what that's like. Um, I don't know what it takes to be brave enough just to get out there with, uh, the only thing I've ever watched is like Pumping Iron, and I've seen the other, and how many head games that people play with you, and I don't know if that's the way it is, in the realm where women compete.
yeah.
No better than I would, but I admire you. I don't know how you're doing,
Yes.
because
What I really appreciate, especially the division that I'm in, is focusing really, is a newer division, really focuses on more lower leg definition, and it actually originated in Brazil. And I think now there's, it used to be just one, it was just one category, and what many women didn't want to enter, bodybuilding, because they thought it's they don't want to look with the big muscles, and it's it doesn't keep their femininity. And there are women out there that, more power to them. I mean, they get very muscular. They're in the gym working hard, but there's the different categories that really celebrates women, who are muscular, but they're still keeping that feminine. And there's so many different categories that they could choose from. I think there's like 5 or 6 categories, and we just had a friend of ours at the gym that competed in that physique, where she's that very muscular, whereas I, it's a little bit more about symmetry, and you're doing a lot more cardio, but you're still keeping, you still feel good, you still feel feminine, you still get to dress up, and well, you don't dress up because there's not much of the outfit, as but you get to, you put on makeup, and it's like I said, it was like my little wedding day, it was a full day, but then it's over in a flash,
Yeah.
you're on stage for a few minutes. But I did actually, after the show, because you are dropping water the day before, you're kind of limit your water intake, and some people may take a diuretic, but I remember I was like, I'm gonna have a shot of tequila right after, and of course, after not drinking water, it hit me pretty fast, and I really much enjoyed it. Yeah, it was fun, but it was like, and it was also in Palm Springs last year, and it was just so happened to be 118 degrees that weekend.
Yeah, of course,
So
but it's a dry heat.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't too bad. Yeah.
For those of you who are interested in that kind of thing, and I've had a background in fitness, and anyway, you know what's interesting about tequila that I've discovered is that a lot of people who have an active lifestyle, whether they're swimmers or they're, anything, runners, whatever, tequila seems to be the spirit of choice for a lot of athletes, or a lot of people who have that kind of an active lifestyle. And so it doesn't surprise me that the two of them really work for you, because I've seen it work for a lot of other people too, and yeah, we did talk about that. It's one of the cleanest spirits you can have. I think I've mentioned before, if it's done correctly, it's the ultimate slow food, because it sits in the ground, hopefully between 5 and 8 years. Not lately. Some of the other mainstream brands have been, killing plants earlier. But have you been to this distillery? Have you been to the Costa Distillery, or where they produce it?
I have not yet. I was planning to go. Unfortunately, with COVID, we weren't able to go. But I know in 2022 we're planning to go. And then for those that don't know, it's NAM 1500. So it is one of the oldest distilleries in Amalfitán. So it's a lowland agave, and it's actually also the same distillery and the same master distiller as Código tequila. The Código 1530 used to be produced there. So and the Perez Ocampo family, I know they've been making tequila, I think, for about 5 generations. So I haven't personally met him in person, but I'm looking forward to getting there in 2022. Yeah, the first distillery I got to visit was Patron when I was working for them, and of course, it's we all know Patron being the global brand, but being able to visit that distillery and just really seeing, I mean, even just really impressed me was the bottle making process and how people, the individual putting the labels on and how they make sure at every I don't know if it was like every hour they stop and they were doing some stretching exercises. So it just really anyone who gets the chance to visit any distillery, you're gonna appreciate no matter if it's a big one or a small one. I was just what an amazing opportunity to go. So
Yeah, it's always a recommendation for that I tell people, if you're gonna go see Disneyland, go see Cuervo Land, and or Patron or whatever, and then go see Tapatio, go see goes right. If anybody's ever been to the city of Tequila, a lot of distilleries are within walking distance. You can literally walk to Arete, up the street, candy corner from Cuervo. And then there's the Sauza Museum, which still belongs to the family, and that's amazing. I mean, the 3 generations of just anyway, you're gonna have a kick when you go, because it'll be hopefully you'll be able to go into the city of Tequila and do that. Yeah. And wear tennis shoes. Don't wear shoes because the streets are cobblestone, but the cobblestone is it's this stuff. It's obsidian, and it cuts through leather. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I wore a pair of boots, just for dress up, and when you walk across the street, you don't realize how much damage the obsidian. This piece of obsidian, it came from Tequila, and it cut my boot. So when I got back to I was living in Albuquerque at the time. When I got back home, I had to go find a boot, a boot repair place so you can give you new soles. So wear shoes you don't care about.
Yes, exactly. Don't wear high heels.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, now I know that when you reached out to me, it was like pandemic had just started.
Yeah.
First of all, I want you to tell me where can people find Costa? Let's say they've seen our videos or they've seen all the other reviews of some of the other Instagrammers who are doing reviews of Costa. Where can they get it? Especially, I was going to say now at the holidays because we're at the holidays, but people see you until 2022. So where can they get it readily?
Okay. Well, we are distributed obviously in California, and then also I just got distribution in my home state of Connecticut. So we're mostly in Connecticut stores and California stores, but of course now we know everyone's been ordering online. So of course, first and foremost, Old Town Tequila. You can find it on their website, but we also do have a couple other distributor partners. Actually, believe it or not, it was you who recommended Mash and Grape. I think it was you who turned me onto them. So Mash and Grape, you could get it on there. And then also we have Caskers and Flavier.com, and then also Cask Cartel as well. So those are kind of the major and I know most of them ship nationwide. I know the other one that we're on is also Liquorverse.com, which I was told ships to all 50 states. I know Caskers, I think I don't think Alaska and Hawaii, but I think but I was surprised to see that they ship to most states, whereas I think Caskers has some limited states that they don't ship to, as well as Flavier as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You lived in Ohio for a while, and we have a taster in Ohio he's in Youngstown.
Yeah.
And he and I discussed this a lot about the problems of living in a control state.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges did you see? I would imagine since your home state, you have that affinity for the home state, and I would imagine that you want to be able to get Costa into a control state. But what kind of challenges would you see going into a control state now that since you worked for one? You worked.
Yeah, I know it's just a lot of dealing with the state. And when I first moved to Ohio, I'll be honest, like the first thing I said was like, even though I knew a lot about the spirits industry, I'm like, I do not know anything about a control state. I couldn't believe that, you have to go to a liquor store, that the restaurants order from a liquor store for those who know about a control state. But I was very fortunate that I worked with a lot of great people in Cincinnati. And that's the one thing I missed about Ohio is those Midwest values and those Midwest manners. It was a lot of great people to work with. But, these people that are working in these agency stores, I was also very fortunate that I had someone who I worked with. It was a place called Stagger Lee's. Maybe I'll give him a shout out, a guy named Raj. And he worked 24/7, but he handled all the big restaurants and stores. So it was great that we had a great relationship. However, in terms of the challenges, like I actually was going to reach out. I say, if I'm going to, launch a brand in Ohio, it's speaking with these, guys that have these agency stores, because they're the ones that have the connections with the, the people that work at the state. And I know that if there's a certain amount that you may or may not be able to take in, and if it doesn't sell enough, they will take you right out, and that's what they call it. And they literally call it, you get delisted. So, we say like, oh, that brand's been delisted. So it's like you've basically been moved from, you're no longer a cool brand, you put on the D list.
Yeah, Jim and I, I'm going to have an open bar with him. I've threatened him with this because apparently he is well politically connected. Jim is, and we're going to discuss the problems because every control state runs their state liquor board differently. Some are very successful, like New Hampshire. New Hampshire's successful. They're famous. And yet there's places like Ohio where the selection sucks. And it's funny because I see a lot on Twitter, a lot of citizens of Ohio who are complaining that they can't get real good booze. They have to actually go somewhere or go on vacation, or, if they go to Florida, they got to load up and stock up because they can't, they can't get good craft tequila there. So, and that's why I asked you that question, because it's interesting. You worked for a major brand also. Yeah. So at that point, control states are really run by the major brands. They all have the distribution channels there already.
Yeah.
So
I lived in Cincinnati, so I wasn't too far from the Kentucky border, but there were people that were going over the border, to get certain brands that they couldn't get. And there was a lot of, small brand, like, for example, I'll use an example of, I think it was when we had the Patron Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah.
So I actually, that was that great bottle, but they gave us a very small allocation. And like, I think I had an allocation of like 3 bottles, there was like 3 bottles in Cincinnati, 3 bottles in Columbus, 3 bottles in, up in Cleveland. So as a sales rep, you could kind of use that to kind of leverage, be like, hey, I got this 1 bottle, what else could, and I will allocate to you. But you kind of have to pick like your top 3 accounts of like, okay, who's going to get this bottle when there's only 3 in the state. So yeah.
It's like trying to decide which of your 3 kids is the one you love the most, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then like there was some, we all, and of course being, big with bourbon, that we had the same thing. We would do, and I don't remember the brand, but I know we would do these like lottery events too at these liquor stores, where people would come in and we would have like, it was just like literally a lottery. And I think I remember we even had like picking names out of a hat, and it was like people would line up around the block so they could see if they would be able to get this one bottle of a brand. And I wish I knew the name. I mean, I was a very well-known bourbon brand, but just to see these people lined up on a winter night, just waiting in line, and knowing whether may or may not they may get the bottle. And some people, got lucky, and other people just stood out in the cold and they won't get that bottle. And it was like maybe it was $100 bottle or something. Yeah, it was one of the. Maybe a 4 Roses, but yeah. Anyway, yeah.
4 Oh yeah, probably 4 Roses.
Yeah,
because that was really hot at the time.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. You mentioned that you had a promotions company yourself.
Yes.
When I lived in Albuquerque, I was really good friends with a gal, and we're still friends, who really probably one of the greatest bosses I've ever watched.
Oh, great.
And I watched her. Really, she was a good friend of mine, and still is, but she was more of a wine person. But I met her when we were doing shows in New Mexico, tequila shows we were actually, myself and a couple of partners were the first ones to put on a show anywhere in the United States, and we did it in Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. And that's how I met this young lady who at the time was working for Southern Wine and Spirits. It wasn't Southern Glaciers.
Yeah.
And then she branched off and started doing her promotion company. And I watched her work. One day she invited me to a wine tasting she was doing at I forget what store it was. It was it was kind of like it was an everything store, you know. I forget, it was Pure One or something like that. And they had a big wine selection. And I watched her work the customers, and she's really good. Then I watched her work with her crew. You know, she's very selective, and everybody to this day they love her.
Hmm.
And it, what sort of challenges did you find, you know, when you had your promotions company? What, because I know with her, it wasn't about throwing a body in front of a table, you know,
Hmm.
because I've I've worked, I've been a mouthpiece for men who work promotion companies who have their own, and it's really different how they hire women as opposed
Yeah.
to a woman who hires women who, you know, who have substance and can literally sell. They have a selling ability. You know, to me, I've seen a dichotomy. How did you run your company? How did you, you know, what sort of challenges did you have in just finding people? You know,
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's a challenge always, because these people are working part time, and some of them just viewed it as like, hey, it's a part time job, it's a way to make extra money, and some of them thought of it as just a fun promotion. And don't get me wrong, there were some amazing events that every girl wanted to work. However, as you know, it's not just about having a pretty face there. I mean, especially when it comes to the liquor stores. So we wanted someone that knew how to go in and knew how to sell. Was someone who's going to talk with the customers, not just hey, try this. I mean, because they're just standing there. So I think those were the challenges. Because there are those on-premise events, and we'll admit that some brands were looking for a specific type of look, like. Which I liked. For example, like when we were working with Sailor Jerry Rum, they were
oh,
actually looking. So they were actually looking. So we had one client that was very conservative. Didn't want any females with any sort of tattoos or anything. However, we started working with Sailor Jerry Rum, and what I really appreciated is that they looked for kind of a woman with that alternative look to really fit that Sailor Jerry Rum lifestyle. So I did have a large staff, and I think that we had a large staff with a lot of diversity because we work with so many different brands. But I think that when I had my agency in 2005, and I don't know if it's maybe just the changing of the times. I felt like I had better staff in the 2005, and then when I had my agency again in like 2011 and 2012. I don't know. I think it's just maybe the changing, and sorry millennials, but like people nowadays, they didn't want to work. They don't want to work like they did want to work back then. I mean, it is a challenge. Yeah.
well, you know, and I say that to everybody. I say the liquor industry really requires you to not only change, but to stay present. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because every 10 years, liquor companies know this. Every 10 years, there's a new generation of drinkers that they
Yeah.
prepare for. You
Mm-hmm.
know, their marketing companies already prepare for stuff like that. Cuervo
Yeah.
invents that kind of, you know, they already know what the numbers are going to be,
Yeah.
and they look for these marketing studies to see what will attract that next generation. And
Yeah.
so, you know, people like you and me well, for me especially, because I've watched this business for 22 years. I mean, we've been
Yeah.
doing 22 years. So I've seen the differences. But the other thing too is I think it really does boil down to who the boss is.
Yeah.
Uh, if you, but you're right. You know, the mentality and of each generation is going to be different.
Yeah,
Uh, and
and I'm glad you brought up a great point too. And now I really like to think about like some of the things that I've seen, and we talk about like how things have changed. Like one of the big campaigns I worked on was Doer Scotch, and they were talking about how can they. I mean, everybody's father had a bottle of Doer Scotch in their liquor cabinet, but it was kind of like they said. Not to be grim, but they said like the Grim Reaper kind of took the Doer Scotch drinker away. Your grandfather is no longer with us, so they're saying how
exactly.
could they get, and they were looking for opportunities. How could they get that younger consumer to drink Doer Scotch? So they brought in like someone who actually dressed as like the Dewar's Highlander, and to come into bars and stuff. So that we're having my promotions agency. I mean, those were some of the things I really enjoyed, because really just kind of seeing, some of the creative marketing ideas that these companies have come up with, and, some of the things that they've done to attract, we have so many core brands that have lost their core consumer. How do we attract these new millennials? Everything now is becoming, they're obviously, everyone's on their phones. So they're doing all these digital ad campaigns is the next things, because, too many people are looking on their phones now. We need to start looking up now.
I think the most clever campaign I ever saw was the Captain Morgan campaign. You hire a guy who looks like Captain Morgan.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
So, but yeah, and I do remember her, this lady that I know, and I believe she still has her agency, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. She also sought older women, which I thought was amazing. It wasn't your average 20-year-old. It was, you had women of substance. You had the 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds, and friends of hers, that really supported her. And I really admired the way she ran her company. And I wondered, if you had that same, but the vibe is always different where you're working, where you have your agency, what state you're in, whether it's controlled or not. California is a whole other, Texas is a whole other country where I lived, and New Mexico is, New Mexico can be anything.
I think with me too, I tried to lead by example, and same thing. How did I start in this agency or in this liquor spirits world? I started out doing promotions part-time, and then look where I am now. So I really wanted to empower these girls too. There was a lot of girls that worked for me that I helped get jobs, that looking into, some of them were looking to even build their modeling portfolio. So there were some opportunities that we could do some high profile events that they could work on that. We had some other women that wanted to really get into the liquor industry. So it was such a great opportunity, because there's women that I'm still friends with that, that I see now. I have a great friend who is now, she is the multi-state manager for Bacardi. I have another friend who is down in Texas, that is working. I think she's like the vice president of Pernod Ricard now. So, wow. I'm all about, and I think that the industry has definitely changed, females in this industry. When I first started, it was, a lot of men. It was me. I was in a sales room where it's, 100 sales reps, and, not all of them are paying attention. And, I don't consider myself a feminist. I know that there's, advantages, to being a woman, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of challenges that we have overcome, and there's more and more women in this industry. So, and I think that's great that we, how the industry has changed so much.
So maybe that's the reason that you're in the business, is to change the look of what industry, because I remember I myself never worked for a liquor company. I worked for a paper, food, and chemical distributor. And it's funny because the year before I came to work for them, they were doing paper, food, chemicals, and booze. Mm-hmm. And the year I went to work for them, the previous year, they had sold the booze part of the business to RNDC, to Republic National at that point.
Yeah.
But the guys who stayed on the food side were very much, it was still a good old boys system.
Yes.
And I remember how it was just, the atmosphere is really different. And so it was nice to see more women involved, and to see how that distribution industry has changed along with the liquor industry. One of my favorite books is that Lisa, our managing partner, put together was our Babes to Boss Ladies book, where we interviewed, and you're going to be in one of those. I think you answered our profiles in Agave Spirits.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what the publication date on that is. I'll have to ask with her. But we asked the same 5 questions to a lot of different women, and everybody has a different take on it. And the one thing I asked them was, what do you see, what sort of challenges did you have in a male-dominated or male-oriented business? And some of them were very very diplomatic and say, well, a lot of these were, I never had a problem. Some of these men were my mentors, and I believe them. And yet others were completely, on this other side, it needs to change.
Yeah.
And so were there any special, besides the guys not paying attention, were there any special challenges, that you've seen? Because you've been on that forefront of, it seems to me now that you know, now that I know more about your background, you've kind of seen the industry change and you've been part of that.
Yeah.
So now what sort of challenges did you have then that you don't have now?
I think when I started out, here I was the state manager in Connecticut, and I was 24 years old, and of course I was mainly working in the on-premise sector. I was dealing with a lot of nightclubs, and with a lot of nightclubs is a lot of the male nightclub owners. And at the time, I was still a young single gal, and I think that some of the challenges where you're going into a nightclub, obviously you're going to be sampling them on the different brands, and they're like, okay, well, you and your girls come stay and hang out, and so it's just kind of that. It's the level of, where does the borderline of being, like flirty become, like a little like, okay, too much, like with some of these nightclub owners. But, one of the things I will say, that actually had helped me was, and this is a funny story, is my husband, my now husband, at the time was actually working for Bacardi, and I was working for Allied Domecq. So he was my competitor in the industry, and me being a competitive person. So
you sneaky devil.
Yeah,
and I
tell him this story when I found out that he got the job, because I was already working for Allied Domecq when I found out that he got the job for Bacardi, and this is before we were together. I'm like, gosh darn it! I'm like, I don't want him working. I'm like, I know he's gonna move into my territory. So fast forward a few months later, my husband and I, started dating, and he was a very well-known guy in the area, and also was into bodybuilding as well. So I think once people knew like that I was dating someone, it was like they laid off, like the flirting stopped. It was like, so it was just but yeah, there was times, especially in the nightclubs, that people, it was just, I had a coworker that told me that she would actually wear and I don't know if it was her, some people told me that they actually wore a fake wedding ring so they wouldn't be bothered by some of these nightclub owners. So, and that was actually a male coworker of mine. And I've had so many male coworkers that have been great mentors and great friends. And he had said, he was just like, yeah, he's like, I knew, she said that she wore a fake wedding ring because she didn't want to be bothered with these nightclub guys.
That's a great technique.
yeah. I never used it. I ended up getting the real wedding ring, but it is.
I love your strategy. Marry the competition.
Exactly.
They X out.
Exactly. Yes. If you can't beat them, join them. Right.
Oh, look at you.
Yes.
Oh my God. So, do you guys compete together? Have you guys ever done pairs competitions?
He's never competed. He's always been, he's always been my rock and helping me with. I mean, he was never. I actually have a female trainer that I work with,
right?
Who's been, but he, we've always worked out together. He's never competed. People always tell him that he should, but with him, he loves to enjoy. He still eats well, but he still loves to enjoy his meals, and he's the guy that could get away with it. Now that we moved here to California, he loves In-N-Out, and he'll be like,
oh yeah,
go to In-N-Out. So there's sometimes that like I'll be like, could you go in the other room while you're eating? But other times we'll be indulging together because he likes to put on more calories because he's a taller guy, so he could he could take in the calories. Where
your
I have
weakness is pizza, I understand.
Oh my goodness, yes. So I am, and I will. Not only do I consider myself a tequila enthusiast, I am a certified pizza snob. I consider myself, yes.
So here's the question: Canadian bacon and pineapple, yes or no?
No. I just like my cheese. Yeah. I mean, no. You can have it, but I just go the plain old thin crust.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like Chicago style? Or do you like New York?
No, Chicago style. That's too much for me. Not to say that I don't enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but just you have one slice, and we were in Chicago a couple of years ago for a friend's wedding. We had one slice, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for bed now. Like it's too filling. At least with a thin crust, you could have a couple slices and you feel okay. You can still have room for dessert.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just trying to get a picture here. So.
Yeah. No. Good old slice of cheese pizza in New York. Yeah. Well, New Haven, Connecticut, where I'm from. That's where the hook. Yes.
Okay. No, well, I understand too that Kostov is in one of the bigger casinos. It's a reservation casino, if I'm not mistaken, and that casino is famous. I forget what the name of it is. I don't want to call it Montauk. I'm probably wrong. Isn't that where Kostov is right now as well?
In Mohegan Sun, yes.
Mohegan Sun, that's it.
Yes, and Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods as well. So but Foxwoods I think is one of the biggest Biggest in the world, I think. Yeah. So those who
Yeah.
haven't visited Connecticut, it's a whole state. It's like a whole city within Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. I don't know how you manage that, but so
Yeah.
where where do you see where do you see your? I mean, what I'm hoping is that you have a piece of this action because you really work your tail off on
Oh,
getting it
yes, yes.
on
So there are
getting it to
some
where it is,
opportunities.
and so where do you see it going? I mean, I know. Well, first of all, why don't you give people a sneak peek? And I didn't bring it. It's in my other office here, my other living room, actually. You guys are coming out with an extra
We're
añejo.
coming out with a 12-year extra as well. Yes. So we're still finalizing the packaging and everything, and we're actually working on getting the labels approved. But the plan is it's going to be like a limited release, only 100 bottles total. So yeah, so it's going to, we're obviously the price tag, we're still working on that, but and then we're also getting more inventory because this, we'll talk more about the story is, this kind of started as more of, a passion project with tequila. And then, now seeing how successful it has become. And when I first started, and you were one of the first people who actually reviewed the tequila. And, of course, I'm going to be biased because, it's the brand I work for. And I'm, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But our Reposado and Añejo, I've always been a Blanco drinker, but we're actually getting more inventory of our Reposado and Añejo coming in January. So we're looking forward to that, and we're
Good.
looking forward to getting into other states, getting more into the Midwest. I have some people that I've been talking to in Illinois that there might be some distributor office also in Nevada as well. So yeah, it's been now that obviously for a short time we didn't know what was happening with COVID, but now that we know, I mean, and hopefully we're on the up and up. Everything is here to we're onward and upward from here.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear that. Because a lot of things happened for a lot of people in the hospitality industry. I mean, it took a $2 billion hit.
Yeah.
And people had to pivot. A lot of brands pivoted. We saw the biggest growth of submissions for the 2020 Brands of Promise, and 2021 is huge. Our right now, we're recording this in December, but on our website you can see the ballot, and just the Blanco ballot's got like 36 Blancos. That's crazy, and the amount of other agave spirits that are coming. It didn't stop. All this stuff was in the pipeline already because it takes anywhere from 2 to 5 years to roll out a brand. So a lot of these brands are already in the pipeline, and you can't stop that train, even though you're in the middle of a pandemic. And it's good that you're bringing back more Repo and Añejo because that's what disappeared.
Yeah.
It turned out that during COVID, that's what was. I mean, we were in the middle of an Añejo shortage for a while there. It looks like it's tapering off, and some people were afraid that a Reposado shortage was going to happen next. So I'm glad that you're bringing more of that stuff up. Because
yes, we are. Yes, and hopefully I'll be sure to keep you updated. I know that I look forward to having you review the 12-year. So
yeah, I haven't
release yet.
I haven't touched it.
Okay.
In fact, off camera, I'll ask you a question about that because those are very limited samples, and so we'll discuss that off camera because it's not. I want to concentrate more on you and the brand. It just seems really serendipitous that you got involved in this thing and it has blown up for you, and yet a lot of people are not. I don't know why they're not familiar with this brand more, but I think they are. I think they're getting, and that's due to your efforts. I'm really sure that you've been involved with anybody. I mean, you were nice enough to take some time just to let me interview you. Believe it or not, half hour before we went on, she writes me on Instagram. She goes, "I'm in traffic. My battery's dying. Can we push it back?" And I couldn't because I got somebody else scheduled. And she says, "Okay, well, I'll be ready, earlier then." Okay.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
And
I'm still getting to know the LA traffic. My goodness.
Oh yeah. That's why I said you. Too bad you don't have an office in Orange County because you would have been.
Yeah. Well, I have my home in Orange County, but gotta love Huntington Beach. So I'm here to stay. That's for sure. Where I live.
Can you say how many states you're going to be in next year? Because I know some brands have already figured out. Well, we're going to do these 5 states this year, and then they incrementally increase or not? I mean, I don't know. I mean, is Kostiv going to still stay small or just specific states, or how do you see
we're still in the process of working on, actually we're working on a business plan right now, because it's obviously we're trying to figure out how much inventory we're able to get from the distillery. So we're still finalizing that, but it's been really exciting. And I'm glad you admit one thing that I have to, sometimes I don't give myself enough credit, but one thing I really see is that, working with Kostiv, compared to when I was working with Patron, you have someone on the social media side, you have someone working, in logistics, you have someone working, doing promotions. So one of the things that I really kind of took this brand. So, I mean, anything that you see with Kostiv is really what I've done. And I have to, I kind of, sometimes I'm all over the place. I do think I have, a little adult ADD, but that's okay. It kind of keeps me on track too, because if I'm not, I always like to have, if I'm not moving, then I always have to be doing something. So I'm very thankful for, everything that has happened, despite being in the middle of a pandemic, and that we have some great opportunities coming up. So
that's awesome. 12-year extra añejo. Wow.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to make that review happen when we're
yes.
Because it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I had a dinner meeting last night with another brand owner, and they're coming out with it seems like that is the añejos and extra añejos were really the selling point during the pandemic, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. I thought it would reduce itself, but it seems to be growing. It seems to be, well, we're going to do another one, and these expressions are getting older. So there's I'm sure that there's stuff sitting in barrels somewhere that just been there for a while, and nobody's even bothered to blow the dust off of it or something. I don't know.
I think one of the things that I also found too during COVID is that, everybody was looking for a new hobby, and people were starting to collect things and learn about things. And I think that people took the time to really learn about tequila, and now you see people that, some people collect stamps, and people are tequila collectors, that they're going to buy this, limited edition because they want to add it to their collection. And I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen too, on some of these, some of the social media sites. I mean, you think that you're in a bar or a restaurant, and it's someone's, room that they just, developed to hold all their tequila. So, yeah. And we were fortunate too that people, these enthusiasts were, buying a bottle online, and then just we were doing an online review, and they talk about it, and, they tell a couple of friends. So we were getting a lot of all these people that are now these, enthusiasts, whether they have, 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers. They've really helped grow this brand, and they've helped grow the brand organically. So yeah, people are collecting brands now.
Well, this is one you need to collect, guys. If you're watching this at Kostiv Tequila, and hopefully we'll have Mr. Kostiv on some in 2022. I would really love to hear his story, because again, it's always the question I ask is, how did you get, why tequila? And in fact, when the brand came across my desk, I thought, okay, well, why not a vodka? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's got a vodka name, right?
Yeah.
But as you and I got to communicating, I realized, what, and the stories on the box too, I believe, the story of the friendship, I think, and the relationship. There are a little bit of the stories on the box. So. I hope to have him on next year somewhere. Next year being this year, so 2022. What, for anybody coming onto the scene? I mean, do you hope to have your own brand one day? Is that something that you have in your back burner?
I mean, maybe there's an opportunity. And as I mentioned before, I was very fortunate to not only meet with this brand, but I think there's some long opportunities with Harry and I from 88 Spirits. And I think that he's not only an amazing, mentor and friend. I mean, there's some things that, some opportunities that I think he has as well. So I know I'm here to stay in California. My husband's continuing in the cannabis business, and I don't think I'm going to leave here for a long time. So I think that wherever I go, and I'm just really excited that there is, the craft tequila business is continuing to grow. And I just really enjoy being out and being able to see the people, and, doing everything that I've done in the industry. I still love going out and doing tastings,
Well,
and being in that store. I mean, that's I think one of the best parts is getting out and talking to people, and letting people try it, and once they try it and seeing them buy a bottle, it's like a high for me. I mean, it's like them buying my bottle is like a drug. It makes me very happy. It gives me a natural high.
so the biggest objection that I've seen when I've observed promotions, people, men or women, when they're doing a tasting at a liquor store, is when you say, "Would you like to try a new tequila?" and the person walks in and goes, "Oh God, no! Last time they give you the cross." How do you overcome that kind of an objection? What's your?
I think everyone is always going to say, like, I'm I'm not going to drink tequila. They had that bad experience in college, and we've all had that. I mean, I remember you're drinking that mixto tequila, with the caramel coloring, and I encourage people to at least try a little bit, because one of the things, especially even with this brand, what I get is if I could even quote it, they say, "Wow, I wasn't expecting that," or "Wow, that they were surprised." So just try it. You may like it. I mean, I think people expanding their horizons, not realizing. I mean, I got my husband to once we got together, he really started to have an appreciation for tequila, and he's the same thing. Like, he and I will go out and we'll just have a bottle, not a bottle. Well, we will have a bottle, but we will have a glass of Blanco neat, and we can finish off a bottle pretty on a night too. Yeah, and it's and how do I say this without giving a nice message? I can still, we could have plenty of Blanco and then still feel okay the next morning and get up and go to the gym. So it's just that, that okay feeling. I mean, of course, drink your water in between, but going back to being that clean spirit, you learn to what you like and what you don't like. I particularly not a fan of any rum drinks. It just kind of makes me tired and want to go to sleep. But yeah, I mean, find out what you like. And I think so many people too, people, they only knew Patron, they only knew Cuervo. Once they try these brands, or they've only had the tequila because it was mixed in a margarita, so how could they really even taste it? So once they try it, I think they'll really appreciate it. And you're not in college anymore, so you might have a little bit plus too. They may have more income than they did in college, so go out and buy that more expensive bottle. You don't have to buy the cheapest thing on the bottom shelf.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Where do you? Okay. So if anybody wants to get into the business that you're in right now, what would you say to them? What would now that you know what you know, and it sounds like you've been around the block a few times and you've seen just about everything, including a pandemic. So what would you tell them? What would you advise them if they wanted to get into this aspect of what you're doing with a brand, any brand,
Well, I think as we've seen, despite a pandemic or despite going through a depression or a financial crisis, people are always going to be drinking. I mean, obviously with an industry, I think there's always going to be some job opportunities, whether you're going to work on the promotion side or the social media side or on the sales side. I mean, this was the most amazing. Again, if my mom is looking out for me up there, this was, working in the spirits industry was the most amazing experience. I've got to travel places that I've never traveled to. I've gone to eat at restaurants that I've never in a million years. It's outside of my price range too. But I ate at so many amazing restaurants. I met so many amazing people, and I pretty much got to see I not only get to see the country, I get to see different parts of the world. And being able to do that, I mean, I couldn't imagine being in any other industry. So I really, but we work hard, we play hard. We learn to drink responsibly. There's always that one coworker that maybe can't hang, but we've developed a lot of great friendships. But I mean, again, I started in this industry when I was 24 years old, and I had a big expense account too. I was not only representing Salsa Tequila, I was working with Stoli Vodka and Malibu Rum and Cavassier Cognac.
Wow.
And that was at the time when Busta Rhymes just did that Pass the Cavassier song. So now everybody was drinking Cavassier. But I was here at 24 years old going into nightclubs, being able to throw down my corporate card and get bottle service because they wanted us to spend money. So going to different concerts, when Bacardi gave me tickets to Jay-Z and Beyonce concert, and I got like front row. So some of the, obviously we know that these brands, whether you're working for a small brand or a global brand, there's great opportunities with the global brands. I mean, I see the challenges when I walked into a store and be like, I'm working with Patron. Okay, great. I've had challenges with, when you're trying to walk into a store, then they've never heard of this brand. They may shut the door on you, but once you overcome that, it's one of the greatest rewards, being like, hey, I have a small brand, but I was able to get my foot in the door, and now to see how it's grown in this past year has been very, very rewarding.
Well, excellent, because I couldn't. You really should be proud of yourself of how you've managed to really grow this brand in really kind of a short time, and in really ingenious ways, because you were just talking about how you had the huge expense account, and to a brand that doesn't have that kind of a budget.
Yes.
And so now you have to use your smarts. You have to be clever. You have to be. Like I said, Jill's been everywhere. She's talked to just about every enthusiast, every person on Instagram Live, and so I remember watching one of the first interviews when I get a chance to actually lurk on Instagram. You were in your car,
Oh, yes.
She's in her car, man. You're parked outside. I don't know if you're parked on the side of the freeway or what.
Yes, I was. I was right by Tequila Ranch in Paramount there. I was sleeping there, but I was in a parking lot. And it was getting darker and darker, and I started to say, let me make sure my doors are locked, because I was just, It started out, it was like, and then sunset, and I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here.
That's a little, putting your life on the line isn't worth it, but I give you props for that. That's cool. By the time people see this interview, you will already have competed. But since we're doing it, we're filming now. How many more weeks is it? Is it December or is it January?
No, it's actually, they may see it. So I still have 11 weeks to go. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
Even though it doesn't, but to me it seems like it's coming up so fast. So I've been, I still have one cheat meal on the weekend. I have a 4-hour window, but I will like to say, it's actually, I wish I don't have it with me, but one of the I do eat chicken and rice every day, and one of the seasonings that I have is actually, it's called Bucked Up, and it's a well-known seasoning that a lot of bodybuilders use. And of course, go figure, the name of the seasoning is Tequila Lime. And I eat it. I put that on everything. I put it on my chicken. I put it on my rice. I put it on my broccoli, and I love it. You go into my cabinet. There's like 5 of them there. I got it at the local nutrition store, but it just has a great lime flavor, and it just and I don't mind eating everything every day, the same thing every day. But there are times, especially around the holidays. I wonder, you
picked a bad time of the year to compete.
Yeah. But I love it. I like to, is when I get up, I like to, I do in my car. That's why you'll see me, on all over social media. I'm doing my cardio and I'm chatting with different people. And, but no, it's very rewarding. And also, one of the things that I think that has been also a blessing is the woman that actually has been training me. We're friends. I'm not paying her to train. We're working out together. She's a former competitor, and I lost my mom. It's been going on 3 years, and I was very close with my mom. And this woman, who also has 5 kids of her own, has become the motherly figure. Yeah, she's raised 5 kids. One of her sons actually is also a bodybuilder, and he looks, I swear I've seen pictures of him. He looks like he's in that like Arnold Schwarzenegger category, but she's been that motherly figure that I've been missing. So I think again, it's so rewarding to work out with her and just have that mom figure in my life that that I do miss.
That's cool. That's very cool. I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up so that because I know you got a busy the rest of your afternoon, and I got about half an hour between now and my next interview.
Okay.
What do you want to tell? The one thing, if you have one thing to tell people about Kostiv, what would it be?
I think just go ahead and try it. We won a ton of awards. The Blanco won the double gold for best silver tequila at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. But some people don't even want to hear awards; they just want to try it. So I think go out and try it. You're going to be really impressed. It's a lowland agave, and then of course our Reposado and Añejo is aged in hand-charred French Cabernet Sauvignon barrels.
See, I wish I had known that earlier. I did not. There was when the information was sent to us, it just
Yeah, I
wasn't.
think it was very, yeah, I think there was some miscommunication because I was still learning about the brand, but I was very impressed with the process and people that do try it, people that are former wine drinkers and former bourbon drinkers, they're like, wow. And it's great to see, everybody, like the Blanco has always been my favorite, but then I have a gentleman the other night who from down in Texas, the Reposado is his favorite. And then the other one, it's just to see, like, everyone has their different favorite. And, definitely try. There's not one person that they said that they didn't like it. I mean, there was everybody. It's like, wow, that's great. Wow, that's good. Oh, that's really good. I mean, I know not, everyone has a different palate, but I can't tell you, if I'm thinking in my head, I can't tell you one person that didn't tell me, that how much they enjoyed it.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Well, folks, this is Cost of Tequila. We talked about where you can get it. It's readily available online. Old Town Tequila, obviously, but several others like Mash and Grape. If you're anywhere in Connecticut, you could probably find it all over the state of Connecticut.
Yes.
Hopefully, one day you'll be able to find it in Ohio. I don't know.
Yes, of course. Yes. And then, of course, if you're in California or in Connecticut, if you don't have it in your store, just you'll be helping me out by saying, hey, why don't you get that Costive in there? And they know to contact me. You could reach out to me on social media. I don't mind. That's that's the beauty of this business is building relationships.
Yeah.
And that's
Costive and Jill are very approachable. They're very open. Follow her on her Instagram. If you do nothing else, you can see her efforts as she moves toward competing and
yes.
where. And you're also pretty good about letting people know where they can find it, and what new account you have and all that stuff, because she does a lot of she does all the social media. So obviously, if there's any store in your area, or if you have a tip,
Yes.
let her
Yes.
know.
And then also on my social media too, I always help, as I mentioned earlier with 88 Spirits, I've always here to help Harry and some of the other brands that, I've consulted with, so as you mentioned, there's some other female-owned brands that I talk
Yes.
about, some bourbons. They're also 88 Spirits also just took on Cantera Negra tequila. You and I had spoke about that since Cafe Patron was discontinued. They're one of the few, I think there's some other on the market, but I know that. But they do have some other great brands. I know that Harry has his own tequila brand, like 88 Tequila. And just there's some. I always love to see what's going on, and then I love to support. Even though this is the tequila I'm working with, I love to support all brands. We're all here. We're all family.
Hey, well, look at that. See?
Yes.
Yeah, Jill, thanks so much. Jill Lawton, who is representing Costa Tequila.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for being with us here on Open Bar. You folks have been watching and listening to Open Bar on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our channels and networks. Please subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. Give us a like, because that does help us with the algorithm, because the world is predicated on the algorithm. And Jill, when this comes out, I will let you know so that you can crank it up and we can get 10,000 views.
Yes, we're going to get 20,000 views.
20,000, okay.
Yes.
And you know what? It may happen, okay?
Yes. And I guess I'll say Happy New Year, because this will be,
yes.
Happy New Year. It's going to be a good 2022 to everybody.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed your holidays.
Yes.
And folks, whatever you guys do, tomar sabiamente, sip wisely. Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having us.
Thank
and
you
thanks for
guys.
with us
Thank
also,
everyone.
okay? Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.